Fernando Mendoza and Jeremiyah Love are two must-see rookies to watch in week 1 of the preseason and why it's important for them to hit the ground running.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I'm Damian Parson. That's Sanchez. And today's episode is brought to you by Kalshi. For a limited time, download the Kalshi app and use the code Locked On to get $10 when you trade 10. And today's episode is all about the rookies. It's week 1 of the NFL preseason, not a Hall of Fame game. We get all 32 teams into the action in week 1. And we're going to talk about the rookies to watch: Fernando Mendoza, Jeremiyah Love, maybe a little bit Deshaun Stribling. We're going to talk about a lot of different rookies on the show today, Keith. But let's get it started. And we got to start with the first overall pick, Fernando Mendoza. I believe the report came out a couple days ago that he's going to play I won't say a significant. I'm not going to, I don't have the quote in front of me. I don't misquote. He's going to play a decent amount in this preseason game.
Decent is it's a safe word. Decent is a safe word
because I truly do not remember the exact quote. I might get it as we continue the conversation. But Keith, I wanted to ask you. Let's start with Mendoza. What are you looking for in his first NFL action from Fernando Mendoza, first overall pick of the 26th NFL draft?
Yeah, I mean, listen, with rookie quarterbacks, especially obviously this is going to be his first NFL action. You're looking for some sense of competency first, right? Like that's baseline. And I know that can almost seem like a disrespectful word. I think it's disrespectful in every essence except for playing quarterback and playing football, to be completely honest. And what I mean by that is there's so many different pre-snap processes that go into having a play being successful that I want to see him be competent in that part, right? Like, hey, get everybody, get in the huddle. Get out of the huddle, right? Get to the line of scrimmage. Make sure everybody's onside. Know the snap count, read the coverage, look comfortable, right? Deliver a good cadence, like look confident. So the competency, I'm gonna say, is tied to the confidence part of it. And if he does that, DP, I think that's a win in itself, right? And I know we love, especially coming off of the Carson Beck situation, right? We want to see highlight numbers, right? We want to see 11 for 12 for 190 yards and 6 touchdowns, right? That means you're the number 1 overall quarterback. Doesn't necessarily mean there, DP. What I'm looking for is the results part is not necessarily the win for me. It's the process part that I'll be looking for with Fernando. And if he looks comfortable, because they're going to watch the film, receivers going to run the wrong routes. You're dealing with rookies. You're dealing with guys that potentially won't make the rosters. You're dealing with guys that were, potentially backups in college in a sense, right? The rosters are so big and depending on where these young men came from. So you can't necessarily make it results based and especially statistics based. This is a big eye test situation for Fernando Mendoza.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. Like the eye test, just to go out there and run the offense, right? Like it's simple things that people, I think the casual fans just may take for granted, right? And it's not their fault, but it's just getting the verbiage right, calling being able to get the pull. Your first is one thing to the nervousness of handling, learning the playbook and regurgitating the long plays. I think Cam Ward, somebody asked Cam Ward about like a red zone play call, and he read the play, or just kind of spit the play out, the verbiage verbatim, and it was a long play, and people were like, man, like I don't know what half of any of that means, right? Like you shouldn't, you're not in the NFL, like that's just don't feel bad, that's their job, right? So it's a lot of words, it's a lot of some of this is protection, some of it's telling the receivers and the running backs what your job is, and just get the first play call out clean. Right? Get that first throw off. Make the right decisions. He was really good at Indiana at making good decisions. So let's see you do that now. And granted, it's your first preseason game, first NFL action. And I believe it's against the Cardinals, facing the guy we talk about in a minute, the 3rd overall pick in the NFL draft, Jeremiyah Love and the Cardinals. But yes, and Carson Beck will be on the field too. So you definitely want to see him be accurate, be decisive, right? Don't overthink. Don't let the moment get to, for a guy that played with so much poise for Indiana, for in a school that almost every game against real competition last year, Keith, you always talk about, like, man, every week once they got into Big Ten conference play, I was like, well, this might be their week. Yep. This might be the week they lose, like, and everything. But it's like he stayed poised, he stayed even keel, and I kept saying it. He played without a pulse. I want to see that in your first preseason action as well. Don't get too high or get too low. Just come out there and be Fernando Mendoza. Be yourself.
Yep, no, I agree. DP, let's do this. I'm gonna go to another quarterback. Quarterback that was drafted a little bit later, though. Drew Allar. And there's reports that he's going to play a significant amount of time. I'm very interested to see him because I think his Penn State career, there were talks, right, of him being a high-level quarterback. Play didn't always match up, but he did have good moments. So I wonder, is he going to be able to turn the page and make it more of a Penn State situation than a Drew Allar situation at Penn State, right? And so watching him with Pittsburgh, what is he going to be able to do? I mean, listen, this is probably going to be another situation where he's probably not going to be playing with the starters, right? Like no DK Metcalf, Michael Pittman is probably going to be out. But is he going to have good rhythm and routine? And I'm also looking to see what is his technique look like, right? His mechanics, I guess you can see, and not just throwing mechanics, but his lower body. I'm paying attention to that. Like, does his feet? Because remember, we kind of talked, and like, it appears that at times have very heavy feet, just in the pocket. And so I'm going to see if that's something that's going to be worked on. He wasn't a guy that, if I remember correctly, he wasn't a guy that was rolled out a lot, right? Like being in motion, being on the move, and changing the different launch spots for him was not a thing that he did a whole lot at Penn State. I want to see if Pittsburgh implements that, right? And then how does he handle it? How does he operate it? So definitely going to be interested in it from that perspective.
Yeah, Drew Allar, and I've seen a lot of clips of him at Steelers camp, and especially early on, you expect the ebbs and flows. You see he might throw a pick here, but then you see, like, I think there are a couple of days he just had really good moments, really good days. And mechanics, to me, I'll say this, in training camp, for the videos I remember watching and the clips I've seen that were allowed to be, put out, because the NFL has a no recording policy at certain points in practice. His lower body mechanics looked the best it had, like way better. It looked better than he did it at Penn State. So that was one of the talking points, right? Coach Mike McCarthy comes in, new head coach, I think new coaching staff in general, like play caller, like OC, QB coach, all that. And they said one of the main things with him was that they wanted to strip him down to the studs, and he had to relearn everything. And they wanted to get the stuff, the bad habits and all that stuff he learned at Penn State. They wanted to get that out of his system. So we're going to see how that works out, because especially this early in the process for him, you could see him with pressure and stuff like that from a live defense. He could revert back to his old mechanics just because of muscle memory this early into this transition for him. But looking forward to that, because, again, for Drew, you're in the battle with Will Howard for who gets the first bite at the apple to be the starter next year with Aaron Rodgers, because he's already confirmed this is last year. Because I'm going to close this thing out, man, talking about Jeremiyah Love. Jeremiyah Love's the Cardinals against the Raiders and Fernando Mendoza. Jeremiyah Love was on, I believe it was NFL Network, and he said he was talking to like Kurt Warner and them. And this has kind of been this is my mentality with everything, right? I don't like there people. No, you're not going to have fans everywhere. So people are going to believe in you. Some people won't believe in you. One thing I don't believe in is I'm going to prove people wrong, because you're allocating energy to the wrong place. And they asked him.
That's very mature, you man. That's very mature. You DP is taking strides, right? Taking strides in a new direction. I like it, DP. I like it.
Energy is key, man. Energy is key. and Jeremiyah Love said the same thing, because they asked him about the kind of the stigma of like running backs. How people, you don't draft them in the first. Some people say you don't draft them at all in the first round. Some people say you definitely don't draft them top 10 in the first round. He said, well, if I didn't go to the Cardinals, I was not going to be on the board long. I was going probably right after that to the Tennessee Titans. So it is what it is. But he said that. He said, I want to prove the Cardinals right for drafting me and how high they held me in that regard. And I want to see them really I don't want to see him get no 20 touches or nothing, but show me like this isn't Derrick Henry that for him like to be successful, you got to give him 25 rushing attempts. You might throw Derrick Henry a couple screens. This is a guy that can run routes out of the backfield, line up in the slot, move around the offense and everything in the formation. I know it's going to be vanilla, but give us a little bit of what you can do with him in the passing game and not just in the running game. I want to see not so much what he's going to do, what the Cardinals are going to do with him if they give us any bit of a sneak peek into their play calling with him now being on the roster.
Yeah, I like that, DP. And I want to kind of continue this conversation with Jeremiyah Love because I want to throw out some data points out there for you to see if these things will make it a sufficient start from him. What are you looking for exactly in this game? So coming up next, man, we're going to talk more Jeremiyah Love, but we're also going to continue to bring up some of these drafted guys, right? These rookie prospects who will make their NFL debuts. We're going to discuss that coming up next.
Matt Derry here from the Locked On Lions podcast. Life insurance is one of those things you don't really think about until you have a reason to. For me, it really hit home when my father passed away over 20 years ago. You start thinking less about yourself and more about the people who depend on you and making sure they're taken care of no matter what. That's why I like Ethos. They make getting life insurance simple. It's 100% online, no doctor visits, no needles, none of that. You can get a quote in seconds, apply in just a few minutes, and even get same-day coverage. And honestly, that's huge because life gets busy. You can get up to $3 million in coverage, and some plans are as low as just $30 a month. It's just one of those things that gives you peace of mind knowing your family is protected. Take 10 minutes to get covered today with life insurance through Ethos. Get your free quote at ethos.com/LockedOnNFL. That is ethos.com/LockedOnNFL. Applications may vary. Rates may vary.
Before the season even kicks off, everyone's making predictions. Who wins the division? Who makes the playoffs? Who's lifting the trophy at season's end? On Kalshi, America's #1 prediction market platform, you can trade those predictions in a live market. Can the Miami Dolphins win at least 5 games this season? Well, the Dolphins are currently trading at a 36% probability, meaning a $100 trade gives you a payout of $230.81 if they reach 5 wins. On Kalshi, you're trading against peers in a live market, meaning there's no house, and as the probability changes, you can buy in and out of your position, trade the draft pick, the game, and more on Kalshi. Download the Kalshi app and use the code LOCKED ON to get $10 when you trade 10. Kalshi, trade on anything. 18 or older only. Restrictions and eligibility requirements apply. Event contract trading involves risk and may not be suitable for all investors. Kalshi products are not available in all jurisdictions. Prices, values, and available markets may differ from those mentioned. For more information, see kalshi.com/regulatory. What are you expecting, Keith, when it comes down to Jeremiyah Love and his first NFL action? He was the 3rd overall pick. Behind Mendoza and behind David Bailey, who I'll talk about and introduce a little bit later. What are you looking forward to seeing from Jeremiyah Love?
Yeah, I mean, I think for him, I don't know if you feel the same. Well, no, because I'm trying to compare it to the Bijan Robinson and the Jahmyr Gibbs height. I wanted to ask you, where does he fall in that? And if you think about those 3, like how much hype does he have out of those 3? Do you think he ranks 1st, 2nd, or 3rd in that order?
So hype, I probably would say Bijan. Bijan and Jahmyr probably had more hype coming out simply because they did it SEC, Texas, Bama, stuff like that. Now, if you ask me who got the most pressure, that's Jeremiyah Love.
You think so?
You were the 3rd overall pick in the draft.
As a higher than both of those guys, right?
Bijan was 8. I think
here
was like
and Jahmyr was 11
or
or 14, something like that.
Yeah, somewhere in there. And then, of course, last year it was Ashton Jeanty who went 6th. So for the people who don't believe the NFL likes running backs, it seems like they keep getting drafted higher and higher and closer to the 1st overall pick. But I think that's where it starts for me, Keith. The pressure is going to be, can you live up to the draft slot, right? Which a lot of times it's so many variables that go into it that it's not a black and white barbershop conversation to say, well, you know what? You're not Barry Sanders, so you weren't worth the 3rd overall pick. It was like, this is true. I'm not Barry Sanders, but my offensive line was absolutely atrocious. Like, that's the case, right? I had bad quarterback play. Like play calling wasn't good, right? Whatever the case may be, it's so many variables. So, like I said, I want to see what they do with him, but then I want to see what he does with his carries, right? Because one thing I always I loved about his game, he was one of the more patient runners that I've scouted. Like he's super patient approaching the line of scrimmage, but he's also patient and explosive. So it's like you always talk about panic or patient with DBs. He's the type of running back that take his patience can make a defender panic at the second level because you want to meet him to the alley. You want to meet him to the lane, and if you don't, and he gets out and he gets past the first and second level, now it's a foot race, and this is a 4-3 athlete.
Yep, no, 100%. I think what I'll be looking for DP also is just I want to see some of that speed, right? When you think about the careers of like Bijan and Jeremiyah Gibbs, I think it was evident early on that these guys are special, right? And it was due to the athletic traits. And so it can be a very special 8-yard run, right? I'm not saying that he has to rip off a 60-yard run. Like that's not fair, right? That's like asking a quarterback, you're not good if you didn't throw a 50-yard bomb, right? I'm not asking that. I just want to see the speed translate. I think that's what I want to see. Like I want to be able to watch the game, watch him and be like, okay, yep, there go the speed that I was looking for and looking to. So that's what I'm looking for in Jeremiyah Love.
Yeah, no, I'm looking for the same thing. When you get that alley, you get that lane. He's not a back that I've seen overthink and tiptoe to hit a lane. Hey, play your game. Same thing I said about Mendoza. Be yourself. Play your game. Let the game come to you. Let it slow down when it comes to you. Let's talk about the second overall pick, Keith. David Bailey and the reports out of camp. I think this week they've been in joint practices with the Buccaneers. And they're like, I think he got into it with like Luke Gadecki, the offensive lineman from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I believe it was yesterday, Keith, they were doing practice 11 versus 11. And there was a rep where they said he sacked, quote unquote sack, because you can't touch you can't hit the quarterback. But he sacked Baker Mayfield. And they said he got in the backfield so fast, Baker Mayfield didn't have time to wind up to throw. That's how quickly he beat the tackles off the line and got around them. And they said, him and Baker started jawing and having words because after he got the sack, he like pat Baker on the back as he walked by. And, Baker don't like stuff like that. So they got
Baker
into
to get that contract. Baker, listen, I don't need his money. Right now. I don't need
Baker's a little stressed out that they didn't pay him his money when they wanted it. So, Baker's he's a little on edge right now. But what are you looking forward to seeing when David Bailey takes the field?
Yeah, it's being warranted, right? The number 2 overall pick, and I think similar to what I said about Jeremiyah Love, but in a different capacity. You have to show that you're just different, right? And if that rep about what you're saying, him beating offensive tackle, I want to see one of those 2 reps where that speed is so threatening. Because I go back to the evaluation of David Bailey. We know that he's a speed player, right? Like that was majority of his game winning around the outside or things like that. But I think there were times, and don't, if you disagree, then tell me. But I think we both felt like this, to where there were times we felt the overwhelming speed to offensive tackles. And then times you kind of was like, am I sure that this is special type of get off, right? It varied from time to time. And obviously no prospect is perfect, but I think that was my biggest thing with him. So I'm interested to see, is this, where does it stand against NFL talent? I think for him being in the Big 12, right, I think if he doesn't succeed, that's going to be the conversation, right? Like, oh, you had so many reps to rush the quarterback, and then the Big 12 doesn't have a lot of good trench players, things of that notion. So interested to see that. And then also the run game for David Bailey. How does he hold up against the run? Where do they align him at? Where do they position him at? And I'll be probably paying attention to down and distance for him too. Is he, do they put him on the strong side, the weak side, depending on down and distance? Do they kick him in? Is he on the outside of the tight end, the inside of the tight end? Just different things like that, just to see where the New York Jets are projecting David Bailey.
Yeah, I think one of the big things, because I can't remember which beat reporter it was for the Jets I was reading yesterday. He put out a tweet. I didn't save his. I wish I did, but I'm paraphrasing the tweet. He said he made a statement about David Bailey. He said he's been covering the Jets for like 5 years. He's been covering the NFL for 9. And those listening, hit us up on Twitter if you tag that beat reporter, if you know the tweet I'm talking about, or let me know in the comments on YouTube. But he said he hadn't seen a player for the Jets in the sense be as dominant as David Bailey has been since he got to camp, which is very high praise. And you talk about the first step. I'm with you on that in the terms of I want to see him utilize that early when you're on the field. But the thing I want to see is now convert that speed to power and show us, because number one, we know he has like a two-hand swipe. He's got a bag. He's got multiple ways to win as a pass rusher, but everything is predicated and is set up off of that first step quickness, that explosive first step for David Bailey. So now can you convert speed to power and run through those guys? I'll never forget, like, prime, and I'm pretty sure this was still prime Von Miller, him versus Lane Johnson, and Von ran past every tackle. Like, it just was what it was. Von Miller ran that first step for Von. I'm even with you and I'm leaving you, and I'm getting to the quarterback, and then I can bend in a 90-degree angle, and it was what it was. Lane, I'll never forget that rep of him versus Lane Johnson, and Lane matched him. Ball was snapped, and Vaughn got two steps upfield, and Lane was right in stride with him. And I'm like, that's how I knew Lane Johnson was different. I was like, this is a different athlete at the offensive tackle position. Again, David Bailey, you're going to meet some guys in the NFL that can kick step and jump set and get out there with you. Now, what is your counter to that? Can you win? Can you hit him with that inside spin counter, double hand swipe? Do you got a cross chop that you feel comfortable using? Or can you give me that speed to power? Can you run through that offensive tackle's chest when they are taking away the speed? So that's going to be a big thing for me, because I think he's done pretty solid from the reports I read in the run game. But like you said, where are y'all going to line him up at? Because here's the thing. Here's the key, Keith. They have Will McDonald and him as the two edge rushers. So for them, if you're the Jets, if you're Aaron Glenn, you're like, man, we got to stop the run on first and second downs, because with those two dudes and their speed and explosiveness, you feel really good about 3rd and 13, 3rd and 10 of telling them boys to pin their ears back and go get the quarterback, right? But they do have big T'Vondre Sweat too. I forgot about that. He was part of that trade with Tennessee. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Jermaine
Johnson.
Jermaine Johnson. So they got T'Vondre Sweat. So that's going to be interesting. He could probably alleviate some of the run stuff and let those boys get one-on-ones. But that's going to be a big thing for me, is where you align, and then what does your second, third, and fourth NFL pass rush look like?
Yeah, no, I agree. Well, DP, let's do this, man. Let's go ahead and transition one more time. And I'm going to tell you this, coming up next, I'm talking about another quarterback, DP. I'm talking about another quarterback that maybe was probably the most talked about pick in the entire draft. That's going to be my cliffhanger right there. That's going to be my cliffhanger, DP. Maybe he was more talked about than Fernando Mendoza to the Raiders. We'll discuss that coming up next.
There are more live events than ever worth seeing right now. Games, concerts, comedy shows, festivals. The hard part isn't usually deciding where I want to go. It's actually getting tickets to the show. Between long wait times, confusing checkout processes, and surprise fees, buying tickets can sometimes feel harder than it should. That's why so many fans are turning to Game Time. The app is built to make buying tickets simple with upfront pricing, seat views before you buy, and exclusive saving opportunities that help you get to the events you want without the usual hassle. My biggest pet peeve is when I think I found that great deal, the best deal, the steal of a deal, get all the way to checkout, and suddenly that price is completely different. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets to every type of event with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, use the code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Again, download the Game Time app today. Support for today's episode comes from Indeed Sponsored Jobs. When workplace chaos hits and you need the right hire, Indeed Sponsored Jobs helps connect employers with candidates who match specific needs like skills, certifications, and location, so less time gets spent searching and more time gets spent finding the right fit. People are finding quality hires on Indeed right now. In the minute I've been talking to you, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. Usually, the biggest difference isn't someone doing more work, it's having somebody who knows exactly what needs to happen and helps with everything running smoother. So, listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves, and Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen of the day. And thank you for making the Locked On Podcast Network the #1 sports podcast network in America. It's all because of you, our everydayers. Keith, I think I know the quarterback that you were talking about. And yes, he was probably the most talked about quarterback in the entire NFL draft. Out of shock value alone, that has to be Mr. Ty Simpson for the Los Angeles Rams.
DP, we've been podding together, right? Like that's the new term, right? There's not podcasting. Yeah, we've been podding together for a while. And you are correct. I was talking about Mr. Ty Simpson. I'm fascinated by this, and I'll get, because I don't know if I gave my opinion on it post draft. I'll give my opinion on it now. I thought it was a smart move by Les Snead. And how many times are you going to be picking within the top 15 with the Los Angeles Rams and how talented their roster are, right? Especially go get your quarterback. And if they hit on Ty Simpson, and if Ty Simpson looks good and continues to be good, and he's good for the next, like, and what I'm saying is baseline, if he's Brock Purdy, the Rams have another 10, 15-year run at this, right? To win more Super Bowls and championships and be top-tier contenders. So I'm interested in looking at Ty Simpson and how this looks for him. The things at Alabama that from Alabama to the Los Angeles Rams that translates, right? Does he look, how I talked about with Fernando Mendoza, does he look competent? Does he look confident out there? And I think if he does, then there's going to be a lot of naysayers that are going to have to start pulling back that narrative that had a whole lot of kind of trash to talk about, whether that be the Rams or Les Snead. Look where they stand now. They got Myles Garrett and Aaron Donald's on his way back, right? So this luxury pick can turn to like an ace of spades of like, hey, we're just locked and loaded. There's nothing you can do about it. So I'm really excited to see Ty Simpson.
No, I think everybody should be excited to see Ty Simpson because you get a chance to, because like you talked about, Keith, and everything is narrative based. Ty goes out here in his first preseason game, throws for 175, 2 touchdowns, completes 66% of his passes, 0 interceptions. People can be like, man, we were wrong. Like that was a great pick by Les Snead.
Yep.
They got to steal, right? Because he's going to get to sit behind Stafford for at least another year or two. I think they just extended Stafford for like another year on his contract or what, something like that during this offseason and everything. So, yeah, and honestly, I think Ty Simpson playing well in the preseason can also be a situation where it's like, all right, let's mend that bridge that people felt like was burned a little bit by Les Snead with the whole, well, we could have gotten somebody that was impact, which never mind. That bridge is probably mended by going to get Myles Garrett. So it should be all right. They should be fine. They should be just fine. If I'm Sean McVay, I'm like,
I think they just made Les Snead a little bit angry, and he said, watch this. Okay. All right. Y'all want to be critical of me? Watch this.
I feel like, that because there was a lot of talk about, well, Sean McVay doesn't seem happy about the whole pick. And I'm like, well, Sean McVay probably said, listen, I wanted an impact player right now. And Les Snead said, hold on, let me make a few calls. Let me go get Myles Garrett for you.
Listen, so this is a Locked On NFL Draft podcast, right? But I want to give people a lesson in PR and media training, right? You have to be out of your mind if you don't think that Les Snead and Sean McVay discussed that, right? You know what that was, DP? That was classic good cop, bad cop, right? They knew they were going to make the selection. Sean McVay said, I'm going to take this approach. I'm going to take the approach that I'm riding for Matthew Stafford so the fan base can understand that situation. Les Snead said, you know what? That's A-okay, man. I'll be in front. I'll stand on a pick. But you have to be out your mind. You don't think both of them will prove that pick, DP.
Yeah, they've been together for too long. They've won too many. They've been in multiple Super Bowls. They've won one. I didn't think that was a situation where Les Snead went and said, you know what, I'm drafting the guy without
no matter what. Yeah.
Like, no, they had that conversation. But so I'm looking forward to Ty Simpson and just seeing what he's able to do. And I just want him to go out there and be confident, Keith. I don't want him to go. Same thing I don't want you to go out there and try to prove like the doubters wrong. Just go out there and play ball. Run this offense. Continue to learn this offense and get better. To when your number is called, Sean McVay feels really comfortable with you stepping on that field as the heir apparent to Matthew Stafford when that day comes. We don't know when that day is coming, but when that day comes, Keith, one of our guys I got to bring up, man, Peter Woods with the Kansas City Chiefs. And a lot of the reports, and shout out to my boy Daniel Harms, he was telling me, he was like, hey, Peter Woods looks as good as advertised. Like, and a lot of the reports are like, oh, so 2025 film.
Well, the DP, that's why I was about to go, because he said it looks as good as advertised. Well, there were people who advertisements were not saying he was that good, right? And that's the issue right there.
Absolutely. And they said he's been good against the run. He's been getting in the backfield on passing plays. So I want to see again. Keith, you remember I went to Clemson's pro day the year before when it was Jake Brenningstool and all those guys, and I came back and said, man, the scouts were eyeing Peter Woods like, we can't wait for this kid to be draft eligible. And then Dabble Sweeney and that coaching staff, the new defense, all that stuff, they kind of fumbled that situation with him and TJ Parker, and like they had too many. They got another corner about to come out, Ashton Hampton, that people have a first round grade on, right? Like we talked about Will Helt. I just got a text from one of our scouts over at BR. He was like, hey, Will Helt might be he's a top 5 grade for me at the edge rusher position right now going into the season. I'm like, I remember me and Keith talked about him briefly last year and everything. So yeah, like I just want people I want to see Peter Woods go out there and just perform. Do your thing against the run, because think about it. Think about this, Keith. 3rd and 10s. Like you're Justin Herbert, you're Mendoza or Kirk Cousins, you're Bo Nix, and you break the huddle, and the interior defensive line is Chris Jones and Peter Woods, and they get to pin their ears back. And Steve Spagnuolo, he walks up the backers and other guys. He loves his simulated pressure look, and he's just toying with your mind. But at the end of the day, that interior can get in the backfield. I'm looking forward to seeing Peter Woods be unleashed in this Kansas City Chiefs defense.
100%, and I think he's obviously going to be different from why am I blinking on my big all-pro defensive tackle?
Chris Jones?
Chris, yeah, he's going to be different in that, right? Their statures are a little bit different, but I think he could potentially be maybe one notch under as effective, right? Like he can be a really big impactful player, and I think he's gonna be another guy that slid in the draft, and then people are gonna be like, yeah, we kind of overthought this, right? And it goes back to the prospect fatigue conversation that we always have, always looking for the new shiny thing when these guys have been consistently good for a very long time. So we'll see how that plays out. But DP, that wraps up another episode, man, of the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. Want to end this podcast off by saying shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day. I am Keith Sanchez. You can find me on X at The Talent Code. That right there is my guy, my co-host, Mr. Damian Parson. You can find him on X at DP_NFL. And like we like to say, man, y'all gonna talk to us because we like to talk back.
Go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts to get the latest episode as soon as it is available. Coming up on tomorrow's show, we're going to talk about Notre Dame quarterback CJ Carr. Is he an underrated quarterback? Where do we have him graded? We're talking about pros, concerns, and explaining the grade for CJ Carr on tomorrow's show. So come and join the conversation again tomorrow on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.